In this video, we are going to take a look at Horace Silver's piano solo on Doxy from the Miles Davis album Bag's Groove. Doxy is a tune written by the great tenor saxophonist Sonny Rollins. I'll play the solo in its entirety, all 32 measures or 2 choruses, and then we'll talk about some of the things that make it so great. I may leave out some notes here and there as my hand can't span a tenth like Horace's can. I hope yours can, though. The solo begins on beat 3. So I'll give you a full measure out front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Something that strikes me right away is Horace's use of motives or motifs. You can hear in measure 7 and 8 how he repeats this idea. And again, he picks it up in measure 21. And you can see how effective it is and how it really draws the listener in. Measures 23 and 24 are also an example of this. Here's 23 into 24. I'll play it again. You could even take that idea and use it as a basis for an idea on a blues solo. And so on. Another thing that Horace likes to do is he likes to use triplets throughout the solo. It reinforces the swing rhythm. You can hear this in measures 11 and 12. And so on. Another thing you hear throughout this solo is Horace's deep immersion in the blues. You can hear this at the beginning of the second chorus. And again at measures 28 and 29. Play it again. Horace uses grace notes throughout his solo. It's evident from the first measure. This is how we bend notes on the piano like a voice or a guitar would do. We can't really bend the notes, but we can slide into them. And then another example of this is heard at measure 10. And then again at measure 28. Horace uses enclosures throughout his solo. If you're not familiar with what an enclosure is, I could probably do a whole video on it, but basically we want to enclose a chord tone so we can start a half step above and go to a half step below and into it. There are various different ways, but Horace Silver uses it the end of measure 3 going into measure 4. So it's an F7 chord going into a B-flat 7 chord. And you can hear how the third note of the B-flat 7 is enclosed. this again at measures 15 and 16. So you've got an enclosure happening around the fifth of the B flat 7, the F. Horace uses octaves in his solo as well to build some tension. This is always an effective technique when you're playing with bass and drums to really emphasize something in a solo. So he begins his the climax of the solo and uses the octaves to build some excitement. Sometimes Horace simply outlines a chord during his solo, and that can be an effective way of playing an idea. So here's measure 12. So he doesn't just go down that E diminished chord, although he could. He alternates notes. So he effectively outlines the chord, and that draws the ear through the harmony and the progression of Doxy. In terms of what's happening in the left hand, Horace keeps it pretty simple throughout. He's usually playing bass notes, sometimes the root in the 7th, sometimes just the 3rd and the 7th, and sometimes a 10th. But in any case, he outlines the harmony effectively. The one thing he does do is keep a nice balance between the hands. His left hand is never overpowering what he's playing with his right hand improv. And so when you're practicing, it's nice to keep that in mind so you have a nice balance. Instead of. In fact, when I was transcribing the solo, sometimes I could barely hear the left hand. So keep it in mind when you're practicing. I recommend studying the recording of Doxy carefully so you can really hear how Horace accents his lines. Accenting gives a melody rhythmic vitality and really makes it pop. In other words, it swings. Well, thanks so much for watching. I hope you feel inspired to learn Doxy and maybe even tackle Horace Silver's solo. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos. Happy practicing, and I'll see you in the next one.